Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Black Lives Matter at School, an Uprising for Educational Justice, edited by Denisha Jones and Jesse Hagopian, foreword by Opal Tometi, narrated by Lisa Reneé Pitts, Mirron Willis, and Kirsten Potter. Foreword by Opal Tometi. Nearly every day in the United States, we are bombarded with news stories illustrating the hardships that Black children face in their schools. Whether the headline is about a 6-year-old girl being arrested by the police, a high school senior ineligible to graduate because of his hairstyle, or an 11-year-old girl being assaulted by a school resource officer, the stories are outrageous. But their impact on the lives of Black students is real. Today, 1.7 million U.S. children go to a school where a police officer stands guard, yet no counselor is on staff. And some 14 million students attend a school with a police officer and no counselor, nurse, psychologist, or social worker. It cannot be overstated. The United States is in the midst of an urgent moral and legal crisis over the safety, liberty, and well-being of Black young people. As I write the foreword for this important and necessary book, I can't help but feel intimately committed to this project's central thesis. The issues this book grapples with are personal for me. They were the very concerns that led me, along with Alicia Garza and Patrice Kahn Cullors, to found Black Lives Matter. As an educator, I've walked the halls of many campuses and I've heard the concerns of students, parents, and teachers. And it feels like just yesterday that I, too, was a young person in school. The classroom was the site of my own formative understanding of my own value in the world and my sense of what was possible for me, a person of color. In fact, it was in school that I first became aware that some people took issue with my skin color. I was in the first grade at my school in suburban Arizona, and recess had just ended. Our teacher called our class to come inside, and some friends and I were scurrying to join the line of 20 or so first graders. I stumbled over a friend and accidentally kicked a boy's shoe. He looked at me and sneered, "Nigger!" I had never heard the word before, nor did I have a clue what it meant. However, young Opal knew from his tone and stare that the word wasn't anything good. And in my bewilderment, mixed with shame at my failure to understand his outrage and why he had used this unique name for me and not the other girls, I knew intuitively that I couldn't share what had happened with my teacher. Thankfully, my parents overheard me telling my younger brother about the incident, and they took a stand for me. The very next day, they went to my classroom to discuss the episode with the teacher. While I never again heard that terrible word spoken in my class, I went on to have many other encounters over the years that left me feeling devalued and out of place. Still, it was that formative experience in first grade that helped me see that if we experience or witness injustice, we can speak up and change it. It was in high school that I began to find my own unique voice. I joined a diversity and equality club and quickly assumed a leadership position as my passion and leadership skills became apparent. I was invited by our principal to join the district-wide diversity council. At age 16, I was the only Black person in that space, but I was emboldened by the acknowledgement of my voice and presence. At school, I worked to create programs, events, and opportunities for students of color that would reflect their beauty and ingenuity. I supported their visibility on campus by helping to usher in Diversity Week at my school. One of my most thrilling memories from that time was arranging to have some of our school's autistic Mexican students perform folkloric dance. Their vibrant, twirling skirts and dresses took up literal and figurative space in our school, ensuring that none could pass by the performance without being mesmerized and inspired. I began to understand what it meant to create space for myself and others like me. During these same diversity weeks, I ensured that my Black step team, Dangerous, performed at my mostly white high school campus. Our step team was started by my dear friend Nicole West, who taught our team about Black culture and about the importance of coming together and expressing ourselves. From within our predominantly white high school campus with its small enclaves of Latino and Middle Eastern students, we spoke out, and we were loud on purpose. We giggled. We were free. We figured out that we could learn new skills and be a joyful congregation of Black girls. Those experiences in school fueled my emotional well-being and created for me a powerful psychological safety net. School is the place where this growth can happen or devastatingly fail to happen. It's the place where students of color can be empowered or left to struggle. When we look at the wide swath of research, the anecdotal evidence, and the rousing stories, it's abundantly clear that we must work to ensure that Black students' lives matter. And this work needs to happen in educational settings because when we create safe and affirming environments for young Black students, everyone benefits from the uplift. My own process of awakening happened in suburbia, in predominantly white settings. It may come as a surprise to some listeners that not once in my life did I have a Black educator. Not in elementary school, not in middle school, not in high school, and not in college. I can't stress this enough. Not once did I receive an academic lesson from a Black teacher, unless you count Sunday school lessons at my church. In many ways, I was drawn to the work of finding my own voice and helping to usher in the most unapologetically Black movement in recent history because of the gaping void in my own background. That educational deficit certainly isn't unique to me. Resonating throughout this volume and the lives of many of its contributors is this powerful truth. U.S. schools need to hire more Black teachers. The reality is that many Black youth don't feel seen or supported in their classrooms because of lack of representation. And we know that this challenge, along with other structural inequalities, causes extreme anxiety for students. There are myriad cases of high school students dropping out of school, not because of academic inability or due to problems at home, but because of the stress they experience within the school setting and in transit to school. One recent study found that under New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg's stop and frisk policy, higher numbers of students of color dropped out of school. Both within classrooms and outside the school grounds, Black lives are under threat. The events that led to the creation of Black Lives Matter, the murder in 2012 of Trayvon Martin, and the acquittal of his killer weren't isolated events. The culture of endangerment to Black lives is something students know well from inside their very own classrooms. It's a shameful fact that the United States is one of the very few countries in the world that conducts active policing of its children in schools. That fact is all the more alarming when you consider that many schools also fail to provide services to support comprehensive child development, positive discipline, and conflict resolution. While I went on to co-found Black Lives Matter, what many people don't know is that I was a teacher in Arizona. That time in the classroom remains an all-time career highlight. I started as a long-term substitute teacher and fell in love with the profession and my students. And so I quickly began working on my teaching certificate. My students were incredible, but they were the ones who were often labeled lost causes. The classrooms I took over for months on end were those at alternative high schools and schools where English was a second language for most of my students. I had students who were experiencing hardship at home and some who had literally crossed the desert to travel to this country with their families. As an important adult in their lives, I hoped to create a context where they could be inspired, find themselves in the material, and engage in deep learning. I was fortunate because I taught literature and history, and my assignments usually allowed my students to research little-known historical figures who came from their own culture or who participated in historical events in important but underappreciated ways. We pulled from a richly diverse canon of readings, and my once failing students thrived. While other educators sometimes complained about the challenges of working with this student population, I fell in love. What I learned during this period didn't just pertain to teaching. Some of my greatest challenges involved working with school administrators and fellow teachers. Teaching meant being a real advocate for students and doing what it took to let them flourish. At one of the schools where I taught, there wasn't a library, so I partnered with Half-Price Books to donate hundreds of used books so that my students could have books that would pique their interest in reading. Every day, other teachers and students of color in wide-ranging educational settings are doing similar work to clear paths to learning and growth. In laying the foundation for this work, Alicia Garza, Patrice Kahn-Cullors, and I always hoped that people would apply these ideas to their respective contexts. We wanted people to feel a sense of ownership and authority over the thinking that drives this movement. We have been awestruck to see a growing movement across the United States and beyond these borders. Organizations such as the Advancement Project, Dignity in Schools, and youth-led groups like Students Deserve are calling for #PoliceFreeSchools. These groups and others are documenting police assaults on youth of color across the United States and pushing a vision of school safety that is not reliant on policing. Many other groups around the country and around the world are dedicated to transforming learning environments as well, including the student-led Fees Must Fall movement in South Africa, the robust Black Lives Matter movement in Seattle, and the many students and educators who have participated in the Week of Action using lessons from the Black Lives Matter at School website. Along with the other contributors to this volume, I believe that we need to radically transform our learning environments. Together with the thousands of educators and students in scores of cities who have participated in the Black Lives Matter at School Week of Action, we are driven by several key goals. 1. End zero-tolerance discipline in school and implement restorative justice. 2. Hire more Black teachers. 3. Mandate Black history and ethnic studies in K through 12 curriculum. 4. Fund counselors, not cops. As you listen to this book, I hope you find inspiration and practical tools to help you embark on or continue working toward these goals in your own educational setting. It is imperative that we join the call, educate ourselves, and engage our students in equitable learning. Young people deserve safe, affirming environments where they know without a shadow of a doubt that their lives matter. The work that supporters of Black Lives Matter at school are doing is making this happen.
Introduction. Chapter 1. Making Black Lives Matter at School. By Jesse Hagopian. How do you make Black Lives Matter in schools when the whole system wasn't even built for us? I'll tell you how. You tear it down, and you build it into something that is made for us. And so that's what we're doing. Step by step, policy by policy, person by person, we're tearing it down and rebuilding it into a system that is meant to make sure that Black lives matter in schools. Marche Doss, member of Students Deserve, Los Angeles. This book is the story of how the Black Lives Matter cry for freedom hopped on the yellow bus, walked through the schoolhouse door, occupied the gymnasium, rallied in the auditorium, ripped up the textbooks, and took over the daily lesson plans. The Black Lives Matter at School movement is the story of resistance to racist curriculums, educational practices, and policies. This is the story of educators, students, parents, and community members defying the threats of violent white supremacists, as the account of the movement in Seattle will reveal in the book to come, and the story of an uprising to uproot the racist policies and curriculum that are bound up in the American system of schooling. This is the story of how visionary educators and the Caucus of Working Educators took Seattle's action to a new level by transforming it from a single day into a week of action, and then launched a national movement. This is the story of students in Minneapolis who have been organizing for years, and then in the wake of the horrific murder of George Floyd, organized a powerful campaign that resulted in the removal of police from the Minneapolis public schools. This is the story of students in Vermont, hoisting a Black Lives Matter flag on the school flagpole. This is the story of Boston Teachers Union leaders, publicly defending their week of action against an attack by Boston police. This is the story of teachers, creating anti-racist lesson plans and wearing shirts that say Black Lives Matter as they lead students in discussions to affirm Black identity. This is the story of educator union activists organizing their unions to take up anti-racist initiatives. It is the story of early childhood educators around the country bringing Black Lives Matter at school lessons to preschoolers and kindergartners so that conversations about race and skin color start at the beginning of a student's education. It is the story of parents, students, teachers, and community members rallying at school board meetings and city halls to demand Black studies, ethnic studies, and an end to racist schooling policies. In short, this is the story of bold action against anti-Blackness in elementary schools, junior highs, and high schools around the country. Black Lives Matter at School began in 2016 in Seattle, after John Muir Elementary School educators announced that they would wear shirts that said Black Lives Matter / We Stand Together / John Muir Elementary. In response, the school was targeted by a bomb threat from a white supremacist. That threat galvanized solidarity and resulted in some 3,000 educators going to school wearing Black Lives Matter shirts the following month, with many of the shirts including the message #SayHerName, a campaign to raise awareness about the often unrecognized state violence against and assault of Black women in our country. This action attracted national news, helping it spread to Philadelphia and Rochester, New York. Philadelphia's Caucus of Working Educators, WE, Racial Justice Committee, moved Black Lives Matter at school in a bold new direction when they expanded the action to last an entire week and broke down the 13 principles of the Black Lives Matter Global Network for each day of the week. Philadelphia's Week of Action saw strong community engagement and widespread press coverage, emboldening organizers to begin strategizing for a nationally coordinated action. At the 2017 Free Minds, Free People Conference in Baltimore, educators from the WE Racial Justice Committee and parent activists led a session on how to organize a Black Lives Matter Week of Action in your own city. The following year, organizers around the country took up Philadelphia's model for the Week of Action, elected a national steering committee, and grew the event into a national movement. Black Lives Matter at School also articulated 4 powerful demands for undoing institutional racism in schools: end zero-tolerance discipline, and replace it with restorative justice. Implement Black Studies and Ethnic Studies K through 12. Hire more Black teachers, and fund counselors, not cops. The newly formed Black Lives Matter at School organization had important discussions about when to hold the Week of Action. Some argued it would be good to hold the Week of Action in September to send the message that Black students' lives should be centered from the start of the year. Others argued the Week of Action should begin later in the year to provide more time to coordinate all the activities. Ultimately, the proposal to hold the Week of Action during the first week of February won out, because organizers knew that, sadly, in many places, it would be challenging to openly declare that their Black students' lives had value and wage an all-out struggle against institutional racism in the schools. Because of this, educators reasoned introducing Black Lives Matter at school during the already established Black History Month would give support to educators in more hostile conditions for challenging anti-Blackness. As of this writing, planning was underway for Black Lives Matter at School to launch a Year of Purpose, along with the Week of Action in February during the 2020-21 school year. The Year of Purpose would ask teachers to continually reflect on their teaching with regard to anti-racist pedagogy and join in nationally coordinated actions on various days throughout the year. As of this writing, thousands of educators in scores of cities have participated in the Week of Action by teaching lessons, holding community events, and organizing rallies in defense of Black lives at school. As Brian Jones, Education Director for the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture, suggests in Chapter 2, the Black Lives Matter at School movement is a new phase of a long struggle to transform the conditions of teaching and learning for Black students in this country. Black parents, teachers, and students have not just been the object of historic educational battles, either wrongfully denied opportunities or grateful recipients of them, but have been leading this fight. Every year since the movement erupted in Seattle, Philadelphia, and Rochester during the 2016-17 school year, and subsequently was nationally coordinated for the 2017-18 year, Black Lives Matter T-shirts have been an important communication symbol. In school buildings and classrooms around the country, thousands of teachers during the first week of February stand before their students, sporting their T-shirts, while facilitating lessons about intersectional Black identities, institutional racism, African diasporic histories and philosophies, and the contributions and struggles of Black people to the nation and the world. This movement to value the lives of Black people and teach the truth about their place in history is a radical proposition only because the United States is a nation built on theft and deceit. It is a country made possible by the stolen land and lives of Native Americans and the stolen labor and lives of African people. And because those foundational transgressions have never been fully acknowledged and reckoned with in U.S. schools, every era in American history has required its own rallying cry for racial justice. The long Black freedom struggle has gone by many names, including abolition, Reconstruction, civil rights, Black power, and Black Lives Matter. In every one of these stages in the struggle for human rights for Black folks, a corresponding impulse for liberatory education has emerged as a leading demand of the movement. Black people have always known that there is no liberation without education. Frederick Douglass knew it when he illegally taught himself how to read and write, forged his traveling pass, and escaped from the bondage of chattel slavery. The great educator and leader Septima Clark, called the Queen Mother of the Civil Rights Movement, knew it when she established citizenship schools across the Deep South to empower black communities with literacy, an understanding of their rights, and a commitment to the struggle for social justice. The Black Panther Party knew it when its members founded liberation schools for youth and declared in Point 5 of their 10-point program, "We want education for our people that exposes the true nature of this decadent American society. We want education that teaches us our true history and our role in the present-day society." Today, Black Lives Matter has become the rallying cry of a new generation who, again, have had to unlearn the deceptions drilled into them in school about the fundamental freedom of our nation. The word freedom rings hollow when we reflect on the fact that the United States is the world's biggest jailer. According to the Equal Justice Initiative, in 1972, there were only 200,000 people incarcerated in the United States. Today, the number of people in prison or jail has exploded to 2.2 million, so that even though this nation contains only 5% of the world's population, it accounts for nearly 25% of its incarcerated population. The movement for Black lives has been galvanized by the extrajudicial executions of black people, whether by the police or racist vigilantes. 17-year-old Trayvon Martin was murdered by self-appointed neighborhood patroller George Zimmerman on the night of February 26, 2012, in Sanford, Florida, and the ensuing national protests showed the potential for the eruption of a social movement. Patrice Kahn Cullors, Alicia Garza, and Opal Tometi, 3 black women organizers, gave voice to this movement when they founded #Black Lives Matter in the wake of Martin's murder. As Kahn Cullors has said about the significance of the Black Lives Matter movement, before BLM, there was a dormancy in our black freedom movement. Obviously, many of us were doing work, but we've been able to reignite a whole entire new generation, not just inside the U.S., but across the globe, centering black people and centering the fight against white supremacy. Scholar Barbara Ransby captured the magnitude of the political leap of the Black Lives Matter movement in her book, Making All Black Lives Matter, when she wrote, "Black feminist politics and sensibilities have been the intellectual lifeblood of this movement and its practices. This is the first time in the history of U.S. social movements that black feminist politics have defined the frame for a multi-issue, black-led mass struggle that did not primarily or exclusively focus on women. I use the term black-led mass struggle because it is decidedly not a black-only struggle, and it is not only for black liberation, but rather contextualizes the oppression, exploitation, and liberation of black, poor, and working-class people within the simple understanding, at least in the U.S. context, that once all black people are free, all people will be free." The movement was catapulted to new heights in the wake of the 2014 police murder of Michael Brown in the streets of Ferguson, Missouri. Police left Brown's body in the street for hours, evoking the American legacy of racist lynchings designed to terrorize black communities into submission. Yet instead of surrender, thousands of mostly black residents of Ferguson poured into the streets, rebelling against not only this murder but the uniquely American ritual of police sacrificing black bodies. The strength and courage of the Ferguson Uprising inspired demonstrations in cities around the country, and #Black Lives Matter became a mass phenomenon. When prosecutors failed to indict Michael Brown's killer, Officer Darren Wilson, #Black Lives Matter erupted out of the internet and into the streets of American cities from coast to coast. Only a few months later, a New York prosecutor failed to indict the officer who strangled Eric Garner on camera while he gasped, "I can't breathe," 11 times before taking his last breath. Garner's death, captured on video, shocked millions around the world, confirming for many the American roots of anti-blackness, while also dramatically accelerating the momentum of the movement for black lives. Since those early days of the movement, many other videos of police misconduct and murder have underscored the structural nature of racism.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?